Welcome back, everyone, to the Curio Chronicles. I'm Nathan, your curator of curiosity, here at Curioporium, located in Southington, Connecticut. And we're recording live today in studio, I guess, in Curioporium, in Wonderland Studios in the back of the shop. This is episode 3, which we are calling Creators of the Curious. Are you an artist? Are you a creator? Do you make the strange, the unusual when you show your friends and families your artwork? Do they not know what to think? All that and more, please stay tuned to join us.
Always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society. And if the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
To make art is life. Life is art. That was something that was said to me when I was very young. I was taking art classes over here at the University of Hartford. I was a very, very young, I think I was 12, maybe 13. And that's something one of the professors said. I have been surrounded by art all my life. My mother is an artist way back in the day. Interesting fact. My mother went to school at University of Hartford. She opened a hand-thrown pottery store down in Hartford, right on Sisson, on the corner of Sisson and Park Street. It's now a package store. She opened it up during the 80s. Now, just to kind of understand, my heritage, my mother is blonde, blue-eyed, and she decided, if you know anything about Hartford, to pick one of the roughest neighborhoods in the 80s to open up a ceramic business. But, I mean, it was extremely well received. I just remember my childhood growing up there in the back of the shop, throwing clay, kilns, molds, all those type of things. So being surrounded by art was something that was fundamental in my life, even to this day. And the one thing that I do remember from, that to, the art class at University of Hartford is this whole idea of what is art? Are you an artist? Are you a creator? And if we take that kind of idea and we put it with the idea of the curious, the strange, the unusual, what does that mean? What does that mean to be an artist or creator of the strange and unusual? Is it someone who, one, searches for different items but presents them or displays them a certain way? Are they an artist? On the other hand, is it someone who makes jewelry out of bones? Or what about a digital artist who takes strange and unusual subject matter, kind of for their prints and their creations? I'm always have been fascinated with what people believe is art or isn't art, or what is true or not true, or truly in the vein of being artistic. And it's always become ever more present as I've had Curioporium. I've had the wonderful pleasure of meeting numerous, artists, whether you want to call them artisans or crafters. And, that's one thing this language, I think, needs to be kind of, I don't know, clarified, or if it can be. You have people who call people crafters, creators, artists, makers. I think maybe that's like the 4 biggest things everyone hears. What does that really mean? Crafters has taken on kind of a homely, in the basement, side room, after the kids have been put down, maybe, creek cut, um, tinkering, things like that. I mean, that's kind of the connotation I've always heard people, speak with crafters as. I don't think it's ever had the connotation of what people would say if I'm a creator. I mean, would a creator want to be called a crafter? Absolutely not. Would an artist want to be called a crafter? Absolutely not. I mean, that's truthful. That's just the way it is from my experience and my discussions with people that do call themselves an artist. Why is that? Why is there a distinction? Is it what, time, effort, money? What really separates the two? I mean, at its core, it's creation. I mean, even for the individuals that do assemblage, which I love, an assemblage, basically what it means, assemblage, taking a whole bunch of things and kind of putting them together, assemblage books, dolls. I mean, absolutely love that. You're no less than an artist than somebody who's sculpting something out of clay or sculpey or something. No less of an artist than the person who cosplays and makes their own costumes out of was it foam. And I think these barriers and these different things have really started to emerge, I guess, a lot more. The whole area of being curious, the strange, the unusual over the years has been coming to the forefront, I think, of culture. And with that, not only music, clothes, movies, but now it's art. I remember, I mean, I'm sure some people listening here can remember when you couldn't find an oddities store, when you couldn't find an oddities market. Market's a big, everything's a market. Everything's a market now. You can only have that. I can only say that everything's a market now because it's such in the forefront and everyone is putting one on, which is absolutely great. I mean, just here in Connecticut, there's almost one every weekend. I just got an email from someone who's putting on one in Torrington. So these are quite huge. But then there's the people who remember there were never any. And sometimes you go to some shows. I think earlier on, I've gotten feedback from individuals. Well, there was just a bunch of crafters and resellers there. So already everyone's making these distinctions of, almost like who should be there. It's kind of like if you go to a craft fair, if you've been to like a real kind of craft fair, and there's someone selling like all the kids balloons and kids noisemakers, I mean that definitely happens at fairs and things like that. You're like, oh, that's okay. That's how some of this has become likened to. And from having lucky enough to have a store like Curioporium, from let's take it from when we first opened, when everything was basically vintage, and it very much so was an antique store with the individuals that would come in there, and to now it's all different types of people. There is no standout for me of you're a maker, you're a crafter, you're this, you're that. You're either an Etsy person or eBay person. Would an Etsy person be wanted to be called an eBay person? No. I mean, like, no. I curate my things for Etsy. That goes directly to what I'm kind of talking about. And it's a little, not like a hot topic for me, but it's a very interesting one because getting to see all types of people who come in, from artists, jewelry makers, print makers, model makers, collectors. There's such an interplay with everyone. But then, if I'm online, there's some things I'll read about, people stealing other people's ideas, or copying it, or they're not the real deal, or someone took my idea and now they're making this stuff on Etsy. And no matter where you go, there's always going to be things like that. I just think it's interesting in this oddities, curiosities type culture that it's really, at least I've seen, it's become more and more prevalent as, like I said, it gets more and more noticed as one person who used to go to, say, two oddities markets a year because that's all there was, to now being able to go to four or five. You're going to see clicks, you're going to see niches, you're going to see how they vary throughout the state, which I think variety is great. But I do, hear stories, and I won't work with them, and I won't, I don't want this. Like, that's kind of, I think, the frustrating part is when it comes down to it, and it comes down to a core, what are we really doing? And I will lump myself in with that. I do create. I do make things of art. I do assemblage. I do those type of things. Just like everyone else, there's different things. I think there's different perceptions that you know, some of them will just never get over. I can get an email from someone saying, "Hey, I'm a creator. I do crochet, crochet animals. I'd love to display in your tavern or bar," or, it's a mass email. And then you'll have other people saying, "I curate specific artwork." If and being in that spectrum of artists, there's a little bit of everything here. I mean, everything does come back to Curioporium. That's what it's allowing me to be here. From stuff that is brand new, business to business, retail vendor. I buy from some vendors that Michael's Crafts buys from. There's that level of new items down to a local person who was messing around with resin, who had a lot of bees in their house die, in the windowsill, and decided to encase them in resin in the shape of honeycombs. Sure, I'll take 30. And I think it's looking at that to see where these divides do come in. As I've said before, Curioporium's on its own. This is me in a store, and I'm unapologetic for it. And what I offer is things that I like first and foremost. It's just like taste. If you don't like my taste, fine. I mean, that's it's opinion. It's opinion, but I'm still gonna carry it. I'm still gonna get more of this, that, and the other thing. Um, no one has an ownership on curiosity. Be clear on that. Nobody has an ownership on the strange and unusual, unless you trademark. No one has the ownership on oddities. And I think with public recognition and things, some sense of that does come along with it. But I think we just need to be cognizant of what that is. There's room for everybody. There's absolutely room for everybody. Because, of course, people can only handle something if it's in a room. It can't be this big amorphous thing. It's got to be put in a box to understand. So everyone has place in the box. Place in the box from the people that, during the summer, they go out on the weekends, they go to tag sales, they go to flea markets, and, they're bringing their things that they create. Hey, people have come in here to Curioporium, and I hear them like, "Oh, it's a tchotchke store. You got a lot of tchotchkes in here." Okay, I love tchotchke stores. Um, but the way some other people took that wasn't too kindly. It's in this creation of this culture of, are you a creator of curiosity? And that's my label for everybody. If you're an artist or whatever, I'm going to say you're a creator of curiosity. If I like your artwork, if you do bug pittings, creator of curiosity. If you do, like I had mentioned, the crochet animals, you're a creator of curiosity. It doesn't have to be labeled as almost, oh, well, they're a crafter, or, this is their full time. This is their, no, it's not really their, all of those things. Let's just have fun with it, that we can create things, and that there's a market. There's a whole culture now that's coming around to buying this, and they want to buy the things that are the strange and unusual. I mean, look, if people are getting on board because Netflix puts out Wednesday, great. Put it out. Let people get more curious. It might be packaged and wrapped and marketed a certain way, but hey, I'm doing this podcast right now, and my main camera is literally standing on the end of a figurine of Thing's hand. I love the aesthetic. I love the music. Writing may not be good, things like that, but I love the aesthetic. I love following the creators who do the set design and learning so much about them. So if that gets things to the forefront, where someone comes in here, "Oh, wow, you have Wednesday Ouija boards, and oh, there's thing over there." If they find a little thing I've created or that someone else has created, so be it. You're using something that is for the masses to come in kind of through the back door to broaden what they think about it. And I think that's the great things about all these curiosity markets. There's such a mix. And again, I love the mix of curiosities from the high end museum like stores, that I mean I love, to mom and pop stores, to my store, which is like, was it a haberdashery of this and that, we're the garage sale of curiosity stores, man. You know, that's what I grew up with. That's what I'm presenting. That's what I feel comfortable with. But it's all created. The other big word is quote unquote curated. Great. Everyone curates things. You're a collector. You're a curator. You know specific things. That's absolutely great. But let's not blow stuff kind of out of proportion. Um, you know, People have asked you, well, are you you're a curator of curiosity? Yes, that's a very general term. But I'm not a curator of human skulls or a curator of, let's say, memorabilia. It's funny to say memorabilia from serial killers or people who have deep knowledge in certain things. There's many wonderful people that do that, and I admire them. I just get that attention thing, and it's over here, it's over there. But even then, those people that can go out and find wonderful vintage strange things, and if they have a store, you know do it in like an exhibit style or present it in a certain way, they know they're artists, they're creators. Everyone who's doing this is. And then again, there shouldn't be that divide between what's good and what's bad, you know um it's the attempt. It's the attempt that counts. I mean, how many people don't attempt to draw a picture? How many people don't attempt to create? Should be shunned because they made an attempt and because someone views that it's good or not. It shouldn't. As long as you're secure in your own, not opinion, but your own self worth when you're creating or making something, then everything else doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. But there just seems to be more and more criticism and critiques of things, whether it's for true criticism to help that creator grow or criticism to make their stuff look better versus the other person's. Because there's ideas, and I mean there's new ideas all the time, but a lot of stuff is rehashed. There are some very good artists, but their style looks like that of a famous artist. They've kind of taken that and kind of maybe molded it and changed things, but in the essence it might be really you could look at it and say, "Oh, that reminds me of XYZ." They say, what is it? Copying's the most flattering or something like that. Or imitation is the highest form of a compliment. Not always. Not trust me, not always, especially if you don't do a good job. Um but it's if you create a little something and you present it, let's just remember it's the act of creating that's the important part. And that's something that's very visceral to me. That's between myself and what I'm doing, not my wife, the person in the next room. I'm not thinking about a customer who may purchase it or anything like that. There's a lot of great things that I absolutely love that I've made for the store over the years, but I, out of maybe one thing, do not keep them. For me, it's that intrinsic value that it's going to go out the door, it's going to live in someone's house. But it took a while to kind of build up that skin of, I'm going to make this, I'm going to sell this, and I'm never going to make the identical thing again. I'm going to make something different. And I always say make or create. Um, it's just the way I am, and that's what I want my things to do, is to live on in other people's houses and whatever they think. And Hey, maybe become an heirloom, which would be great. Maybe they take it, pull it apart, make it into something else, add it to something. I mean, go ahead, do your thing, create, be that creator of curiosity. And speaking about creators of curiosity and creation, I mean, there's one really hot topic that I think has been coming into conversations more and more and more and more. I think, of course, that's AI, AI in creation, AI in art, AI in music. I mean, it's everywhere. It was there before, but it wasn't as prevalent in terms of I am using an AI with a specific name to do something. I mean, there's AI has been a part of Photoshop in the background with certain things when you're making you're doing using filters. Same thing in Illustrator and those in a very kind of lower, more elementary level, but they've always been there. I mean, of course, now it says Photoshop AI. Type what you want and do. So we've got, of course, schools of thought. People hate AI. Artists hate AI. Some love it. Some create it. I mean, there's things online tremendously. You don't know what's real, what's not real. But isn't just for a second there? What is this real or is it AI? Does it matter? So if I'm sitting there and I'm watching 4 reels, let's say Star Wars inspired reels that look like the actors, and it's going into the history of Darth Vader or something, I'm like, wow, this is as good as the movie. I'm not thinking, oh, this is AI. This is crap. I'm not. Simply because I'm seeing something which I either imagined or these artists have read in one of the Star Wars books, and they're using AI to bring it to life, and things like that. Or somebody in their basement who doesn't have a gazillion dollars to go get actors and CGI and everything to make it. So is that person a creator of curiosity? Is a person that makes things and utilizes different tools, resin printing, 3D printing, big. I used both of those. Are they creators of curiosity? Of course. I think the problem is where it's people seeing in the machine in place of the hand. And of course, the easiest thing to say is like take the paintings, or pictures, AI generated pictures. There's no hands in it, or it's based on other artists. But what's the intention? Is the intention to use AI slop, as they call it, to make T-shirts, which I see all the time on my vendor markets? Or I love prints. There was a time when all the prints I made professionally print them out on all the acid sheets of paper, like, and all of that. And I love prints with animals and things. And there's some vendors that have tons of these vintage ones of dogs in cowboy outfits, and they look. It's AI generated. So are they making art? I can look at. I don't buy from them. And that's the difficult thing. But with anything, I think AI has its place in terms of the creation of things, just like when the camera came, just like when the rotoscope, like all of these technologies that have been used as part of art or cinema or creating have come about. But it's just AI is such a different animal in and of itself. One of my early experiments, because I love technology. I absolutely love it. I love taking technology, seeing how I can use it, how it's not meant to be used, how to augment the things that I'm already doing. Does it open up doors that I just can't do? So I love technology. And way back in the early days, I want to say early days, let's say 22, 20, 21, something like 22 maybe, 23 maybe. When I was doing a Jack the Ripper show, I wanted to do a couple different artworks. So what I decided to do was take the script that I wrote, and there were several different monologues, and take those monologues, drop them with no prompt into image AI image maker, and see what it would come up with. Some of it was impressive, some of it wasn't. But I then took that idea, from New England. Um, and as I was working with my actors, we do a lot of in depth emotional work, especially for this particular production. I took some of their answers when they were improving and entered those. So here I have these actors who are doing this gut wrenching, inner searching to kind of get these emotions that I wanted to show in this Jack the Ripper show. And, they're doing this kind of self actualization work. And I'm taking that and then putting it into AI and coming back to them and saying, this session that we had, here's a visual of it. Now, to me, that's one of the best uses for that particular moment of AI. I mean, you can disagree with it, but for me, as the creator, as a writer, as a director, it was an invaluable tool to build off of. To build off of. I think there's very much a difference of building off of it and just taking and receiving what AI is giving you. It's a springboard. It should be used as a springboard. It should be used just like all it, markers, brushes, pens. It should be used as such. And I use it as such. The main thing is not to purport that, oh, I created this all myself. Like, you come in and you see some images. I think I have one or two left. I'm more than happy to tell people, do you want to see how this was made? Let me tell you how AI made this interpretation of Jack the Ripper based on my script, of my words. Totally different connotation on that. But we don't hear creators talking about that. We don't hear creators, or not many creators, talking about how things can be invaluable. I love taking either a photo I've taken or something and putting in AI and letting it animate it. I mean, some of it's really funny, but some of it's kind of odd and really creepy, but leads to other things. It leads to other things. I first used the AI music writing and music video writing that I got to test on something, and I was blown away. I mean, this thing was like you were sitting in a production meeting, and it's like, okay, what do you want the band members to look like? What do you want the sound to look like? What do you want the setting of the video to look like? And within 15 minutes of just doing stuff, there was a whole music video of a letter that an alt religious fringe group sent us that I was able to make a music video out of, which was a banger. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Definitely a banger. But so isn't that whole act of doing that creating? Some people say, no, well, no, because you didn't actually do the work. Yeah, I actually didn't do the work. I'm not a production designer. I cannot do the CGI to create that. I cannot do the auto tune. I cannot do the storyboarding that it did for a joke to come out. and kind of make fun of that letter I receive. I you're right. I just can't. Does that mean for me to do that, I should have gone out and paid a band and taken months of production time and no money? I don't know. These are the conversations that all creators, yes, all creators, from the crafters that are using AI to make silhouettes, to make cutouts for for their Cree cut, to other artists who are using AI to make 3D models of things that haven't been invented yet, to a person sitting down scoring a movie or scoring something for YouTube and decides to use AI for sound effects. That's I think that's a great example. I use a lot of sound effects. Some are produced by AI. Is that wrong? Is me paying that $500 royalty license for the sound of a buzzing alarm clock butting up against an AI making that sound? Now you can argue, well, the royalties are going to the person that created it. Well, if you really understand how royalties work in kind of going to these different websites, you know, those artists aren't getting your $350 for the subscription. They're not getting much. But I think is it, again, it's drawing lines, it's putting things into a box. Who has the right? Do only some artists have the right to use AI? Do only some creators? Can you only use AI to create certain things? That's a good question. But when we start cutting down people, definitely people in places, how is that anybody, discriminating against this person uses AI to make t-shirts? I will never buy a piece of their clothing. Isn't this just another form of censorship, another form of segregating everybody? Isn't it? Whenever you say I am not going to dot 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 because they dot dot dot. Remember, number one, that's a personal choice. So maybe sometimes some people should keep that personal instead of trying to sway other people. I have met individuals that use AI for a number of things and seen them get hammered just for the fact there's a word AI. Again, a person who's looking at it 9 times out of 10 doesn't know what goes on behind it, doesn't even know how to use it. The only way they think is, I just type it in and it goes. Would you be surprised if I told you that just like the big AIs out there, you can buy one and educate it with the information that you want to educate it with? You can download movies, music, books, whatever you want, and curate, there's that word again, your own AI. I've been doing that for years. It's about 3 years now. Why? One, because I'm fascinated at AI. And two, it just came to this point where I needed a knowledge base of all these things at once and not just to Google. So I love that I could spend a week using Google to find these books that are no longer in print, or they're so old that there's just photographs of the occult, of the strange, of the unusual, of old books for physicians, from the 1800s that I can feed to an AI that I've cultivated based on my needs and based on the information that I want to curate with it. There's no difference from going into Google and typing in a question versus asking AI a question. It's all the same. But for me, I needed something very specific. So it's also like kind of part of an experiment, you know, to see how it grows and things like that. And, if it's a topic, new topic I want to discover, what I want to inform it about, what I want it to inform me about. If I want to say, show me ancient Aboriginal rituals of death, and it'll come up in a synopsis. That's a tool. That's a tool, man. That is a tool to be used and built upon. And built upon. Not in lieu of. Not let me see those Aboriginal symbols so I can print it out and slap it on a t-shirt. So I do take a little bit of umbrage with, when there is disdain of, I think there was something about people using AI to make flyers for events. What is the difference between someone making a flyer for an event, whatever it is, using AI, or what's the other big one? It's not an AI. Canva, or using a free or paid stock graphic website that has pre-done templates without saying one was done by a human. Take the human out of it. Take the AI out of it. What's the difference of a person either using a template website based template for a flyer, or being able to describe exactly what they're looking for in a flyer and have something come back as a template? Which, if you know anything about AI does not generate templates like you could get on a template website. That's the real discussion. And as we go down this road, and we have some guests coming on, I definitely would want to have a round table, because it's very, very interesting. But what's different, and why should someone who's putting on an event that's going to give money to charity or XYZ be vilified for using AI for it? And who gives the other person the right to be the harbinger of what's right and what's wrong? Who put you on that high and mighty horse to dub things all AI is evil? Do you pay that person's bills? Did you volunteer your services to that person? Like, let's be human about some of these things, because humans, I mean, they love the drama, they love the stuff that can happen online, and bickering. But you know I'm I don't I don't that's I think the great thing of becoming really aware of yourself. And are you a creator? Are you an artist? Are you a crafter? Doesn't matter. Like I said before, it's being in tune with yourself and who you are. If you use AI, man. Like, use it. Try to figure out it to do something different. Use it to augment, to add. Take that sketch drawing you did and ask AI to write a soundtrack to it. Right? Okay, take your whole scrapbook, scan it, and ask an AI to write a soundtrack that someone can listen to while looking through your scrapbook. That's a freebie. Somebody please do that, because I bet it would be a very very cool kind of experiment or visual thing to see, because remember, the AI is going to take it to look at the drawing and the lines, it's going to like it to, some other artist, and then that artist is like, well, is Van Gogh goth, is Van Gogh it's going to do something interesting. But that is fucking damn interesting to me. It's not a thing of, oh, you used AI to do that, man. It's not. And I welcome those things. I don't shun away from those things. Again, it's doing it, you know, and to add on to, and to add on to. And as this curious culture continues, because it is, I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger, mainstream TV, there's so much more online. Like I said, with so many oddity shows and oddity shops opening up and everything, that is amazing. And as that gets bigger, the thing I don't want to, I hope, which I am starting to see, is kind of this, okay, now let's define XYZ, who's good, who's better than who was here first, who, like, I'm not sure why, but it just seems to happen when it starts getting more focus. Who's getting the more focus? Who's getting the spotlight? What is that? Is that really why anyone took pride in calling them strange and unusual? They're so strange and unusual, is all of a sudden to be like throwing shade on people. Like, when did that happen? Being strange and unusual, now people are like, hey, it's not cool. Oh, there's a type. There's a type. There's a goth type, on Instagram. I mean, you know the Instagram accounts. You line them up together, and it all looks like the same. You got to have the black lipstick, the black dress, and then it's like, who does it better? And then it's like, why does it have to be who does it better? Who's being realer real? I'm being realer than real. Like, man, isn't everybody tired with everything that's going on to, like, there's always been a thing about who's an artist and who's not, what's art, what's not art, but who's an artist and who's a maker. And you know what, the person coming home from working a 9 to 5, I forgot what show it was it Orchid Black, I don't know, whatever show, and then the husband would make candles, like horrible candles. You're a maker, you're a creator, man. Just as much as somebody who lives off the fringe, man, and I'm making art all the time in a abandoned warehouse downtown where I've got a small room and I live with the rats and all that, which was the image of what an artist should be in New York during like the 80s. But again, everything I'm saying is just me. It's stuff that I think about a lot, stuff that I see that's out there, and possibly seeing more of it online. And it does kind of concern me that I'm just seeing more and more of, not, I want to say like attacking, but just like a feeling of impending, not impending doom, but something. And it's not cool. At least I don't think it's cool. So anyone who's listening, who listens to the podcast, be yourself, be your own creator. Don't worry about the next stall, what the next person's selling, or if you do the same thing as somebody else, who does it better, and we won't have two people at the same like, come on. Do what you're going to do for yourself first. And people will gravitate towards people being genuine, being themselves, being authentic. That's all you have to do. Remember why you're doing it. Remember why you're being creative. And the biggest thing is, make sure you're always staying curious. All right, everyone. It's Nathan for Curio Chronicles saying thank you very much for listening, and see you back next week.